Good afternoon, folks. We are live once again. Let me go ahead and get everything switched over and loaded up, and we will see how much we can get done on today's drawing stream. We're running through the video game style music playlist today. And we should have audio, video, everything should be good to go. Alright, so what is on the agenda for today? Today we are going to be doing sort of a wrap up of the first part of this project, which I said I was going to do offline and I just have not had time, so we're going to knock it out today. The symmetrical character concept designs that you see on screen here, this is set 2. We're going to finish this off and then start on the second set, which I guess I'll just do in the same file, just so everything's in one spot. But for folks who might be watching this now or in the archives, this exercise in experimenting with character concepts and costumes, specifically your outfits, is all tied to the extended fiction lore project that I always talk about. And our goals with this are to sketch out 22 total designs. There are 11 races in the universe of the stories in fiction, and the point of doing this was to experiment around with ideas of doing a male design and a female design, and alternating between kind of casual wear and clothing and armor. And so that's what you'll see in these ones here. And because there's an odd number of total concepts or races for the concepts, this was set 1 that we did, and then we're finishing set 2. So I just need to take a look and see who's left. There are 2 we need to do. Let me take a look at the list here and see if I can figure out, just by looking at all the ones so far, which one we're missing. Can refer back to our other template that was a different perspective that we were using initially too. I can't tell just by looking. Let me pull that other one up so I don't just waste time on stream staring at my screen. I think it's this one. Okay, we did this group, the snake people. Psychics, we did them. They're on the first set. Oh, might be these people. The ones that have the really asymmetrical designs, kind of chaotic design and layout. Let's double check. Oh, that's something else. I think that's it. Okay. So we need to move the last set. We'll put them here. And we'll start down here, and then that'll fill out the final two. Okay, I think we're good to go. So I think I'm going to do armor for this first one. What I'm thinking for this first design in the kind of protective armor or something you'd see for combat, or an instance where the wearer needs to be protected from like the torso and overall across the body. I like the idea of this kind of cutoff. It's almost like a chest plate or like a cuirass. I need to recalibrate my tablet. Yeah, my cursor's slightly off. Let me fix that real quick. I had to rewire a bunch of stuff recently. I think that's why. Figure out where my controls are for this XP pen. I can't remember what that app is even called. It's probably been a greater part of a year since I last... There it is. I last set this up. Okay, there we go. Alright, this should be calibrate my pen. Oh, that's better. It was like a couple millimeters just off from where the pen contact point on the screen was. That was throwing me off. Okay, so what I was saying before, I had to reconfigure everything. I like the idea that the protective parts are covering the main torso, and then the trick is going to be figuring out where we want to mirror, because I don't want this to be completely symmetrical on parts of the armor. It's one of the whole major themes for this particular race is that their outfits don't necessarily follow a symmetrical design. Sometimes they might have something that covers this arm here, but not this arm here. And I understand for armor it needs to be functional, because if you have part of your body completely exposed, and there's no point to the armor. But the idea would be that the armor style is going to be different. So for one side, maybe we'll leave the shoulder completely, the shoulder down, unmirrored, and then we draw it in ourselves. And I'm thinking for the leg guards or protective armor around the legs, that we can make symmetrical. I think the idea for the outfit underneath the armor will be kind of like a heavy protective material, maybe like a Kevlar or something similar that's meant to still protect the body but move underneath the kind of more heavy armor plating. So like this area, whatever you see here, maybe going down to here would be like a bodysuit or protective gear worn underneath the heavier pieces of armor. And to kind of complete the lower armor, we would have these kind of spiky, like maybe clawed boots or protective things on the feet. I'm doing is just cleaning up the bits here. It doesn't need to be perfect because this is just a sketch concept. But what we'll do is we'll mirror all of this stuff here and then add in the specific details on the parts where it's not going to be symmetrical to sort of fill it out. Oh, I put it on the wrong layer. Reset the clock. It's the first time tonight. Hit, that has the parts that we need to be symmetrical flipped. And this one we can just delete off of the wrong layer. Get that out of here. The idea with the shoulder piece here might be a little bit tough to see in sketch form, but it's a piece that goes around the shoulder for armor, and then it has these parts that are kind of connecting it to the other bits so that it stays in place. So it's not just kind of floating free there. And covering the arm from the forearm down with a similar style of like a spiked gauntlet, or more like a forearm bracer, not so much a gauntlet. Now the question is to switch up the design on the other side. Here's my idea for this one. From the shoulder all the way down the arm until it hits this other armored bit, which will have a different design. This is like a type of protective wrap, sort of like a sealed, a set of sealed bandages, or like a, have like a, what's the best way to describe it? Like a ceremonial wrapping that's used for like an energy seal or something like that. So it still provides a little bit of protection, but it's more to be part of some sort of functional protection than just decorative. Oh man, I put that on the wrong layer too. Wow, it's a little fast reset on the clock. There we go. Make sure I stay on this layer for the other one too. Make sure we saved. Just to sort of show what I was talking about earlier about the protective covering underneath all of the armor bits, I'm just going to do like a rough sort of semi-cross hatching to show that it's also protecting the rest of the upper body. And in my head, conceptually, the wrapping goes all the way down the entire arm and the hands as well. Okay. I think I want to widen this little protective part on the lower armor. This is meant to be kind of like a layered armor piece that goes down to protect the lower midsection / crotchal area. There we go. I think that'll do for the first one. So you're going to be over here. We're going left to right. Male, female, alternating. I think when I start the next set of these, it's going to be tricky because I want to do the same format as before. We start with an armor concept and a clothing concept, or vice versa. But the order, what I may end up having to do is just draw whatever comes to mind, since I'm not trying to follow the exact same order I drew all of these. But when I arrange it into set, what's going to be set 3, I want it to follow the same order when it's done. That way, if someone looks at set 1 and set 3, that follows the same order, and then 2 and 4 follows the same order. So I might have to take some of them and copy them to and from, since I might not be doing the ones from the first set at the same time as the others. It's going to just be kind of all over the place. But that's a problem once everything is done. Before it's done, it won't be an issue. It won't matter. Okay, and I'll create the counterpart one. This will be 11B. This one is supposed to be regular, more casual wear. Yeah, we'll use a female model for this one. I'm thinking here it's kind of like a piece of jewelry, or not really a choker. It's not shaped the same way. Like a piece of jewelry that goes around the neck. And for this one, keeping in mind some of the tropes for this particular race's style of clothing and armor in general, in addition to being kind of chaotic, then it tends to be a bit more revealing compared to some of the other ones. We've talked about on previous streams how some of the races, just based on their culture and clothing styles, some tend to be more conservative in their covering than others, and it just varies a bit depending on the actual group of people themselves. This is going to be kind of like a more lower cutoff garment. I don't know if I've done one like this on any of them so far, which is probably good that it's these people, since it's more common for their style of clothing. Let's see what we did for the other one. So this other earlier template that we used, we did the reverse. Casual-ish clothing on the male, and then the female model had the armor. Okay, for the outfit here, to kind of explain this kind of lower cut top. And then wrapped around the midsection is kind of this, like, maybe a little bit more dense material, kind of like a corset or bodice. And what we can do is add in some detail since this won't be symmetrical. I was thinking was doing like kind of like woven stitching on one side. Like that. And just delete it when we mirror it. And we haven't done a ton of dresses, I don't think. Let me look. This one right here is a bit more kind of like a robe. We have one down here. A little bit on set one. Yeah, we have one on the top, like a skirt type garment down here. Okay, this is going to be like an asymmetrical dress down here. So I think I just need to do the footwear since we have to draw in all the other details for the parts that aren't symmetrical. And this part right here, I guess it didn't explain it. I didn't talk about it a little bit. This is meant to be kind of like forearm sleeves. With almost like a featherish texture on the upper part that goes around the arm this way. And it's kind of tied and secured around the bicep just above the start of the forearm. And we can keep that symmetrical, but maybe change some of the accessories, these charms and things that are kind of decorating the part on the arm. Kind of like the idea that the kind of like a bare-legged look here. These would be kind of like tattoo markings. This particular race is very fond of tattoos. It's one of the big things that's part of their culture and design aesthetic. What I'm doing here is adding some kind of decorative markings patterned on the dress itself, mimicking this similar style to the tattoos. Okay, this one might not require a whole lot more detail. Maybe it's a little bit to show where the edges of the dress are falling behind the body. Okay, let's go ahead and hide the primary. Let's see if there's any details we missed. Okay, I think that'll do. Let's go ahead and put this one in line with the others. It's actually kind of a good contrast that these two here, I'll grab them on the list. These two here are right under these two up here. To kind of get into a little bit of lore explanation, which we talk about occasionally when we've been doing these concept design sessions, but this group up here and this group down here are on sister worlds. We talked about how the whole universe is set up. It's 11 different planets in like a collection of planetary systems. And some of them are farther apart than others, but these two that I marked here are neighboring worlds. They're fairly close together. And as a result, compared to some of the other ones that are part of this overall universe of lore, these two have had a lot of interactions with each other, and they don't get along. There's a bit of a history of conflict between those two worlds, those two planets. And as a result, they don't exactly have the friendliest terms where the stories are taking place in this universe. And so when I was designing the actual outfits, after I came up the story beats for what that would mean, I wanted to kind of do a lot of contrasting in the designs for the people from respective worlds, because we call them A and B down here. Group A come from a really kind of structured and a rigid society with a lot of order, a lot of rules, and a lot of their order is governed by a religious faith. Not uniformly across everybody, but at large, they're very kind of almost rigidly structured society. But B is very much the opposite. They come from a really chaotic world with a lot of constant conflict and fighting amongst groups that are vying for power, and at very much odds and contrast with the rigid and ordered people. That's my phone. So the idea for the stories that involve those two planets talks about kind of the history of conflict in the past and how it's led up to the way the different planets interact in the current time frame where the stories are taking place. But the whole idea of contrasting in aesthetics and style, but also kind of like the cultures and values of each group was interesting to kind of write, and it flows over to the design process a lot when you see kind of like the everyday society people from group A versus the everyday society people from group B, and then like the warrior aspect for both groups and how that affects their designs and the design philosophy. Let's go ahead and save this. So with that, we have completed the first group of concepts for all of the character races in the universe of fiction. And I should probably group this into just one main group, even though they're on separate layer templates. We're going to call this main one. And when I uncollapse it, I'll just have to specify which set I want to actually be looking at. So the first group, set 1, and then set 2 for 22 total. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 and 5. It's a bit of an odd number because there's 11 total. But I'd like for this file to become the primary reference that I use whenever I'm doing these character exercises in the future, because since I've been streaming and since I've been doing these drawing sessions publicly, the concept ideas are spread across a whole bunch of different templates. So like we had this one, which we did in the last drawing session, I believe, where we took the same idea of a basic symmetrical template, front-facing perspective, whereas this one was our outfits, this one was for faces. I think in general we try to follow the same rule, where we're alternating male and female. That's less important compared to the character-specific details like facial features, hair specifically, and anything else that needs to be a noteworthy design element from the group. And I think, just looking at the way this is laid out, we didn't do it by pairs. It's just alternating male, female. Because I could see this would be the same race of the characters we just finished, but this one is different. Same with this one. So they're not bunched up in pairs, it's just alternating the gender of the characters. But this is another exercise that I want to work on some more, since I definitely need more practice drawing faces and creating distinct design elements in the character facial features themselves. So between this template and this one, I want them to be kind of like the working concepts, and then if I end up going back to this one, which it looks a little bit different because this was done a while ago, we can be doing something similar. But I might rework this slightly to be in a format where I can utilize my space a bit better. But we got about halfway through, and then I decided to switch the format up. But what we can do is go back to our basic primary, and we can start completely from scratch. Although actually I need to go grab a couple. Oh, I gotta remember where I put them. I did 2 alternate designs for one of the races already, so we're gonna start with those. Great, I gotta remember where I put them. I think they're in here. Yeah, I think C and D in set 1. Yeah, we're gonna move them out of the group, and this will be part of main set 2. Yeah, there we go. These are the bug people. And we'll be going by the same scale, so we should get roughly the same number per main page. So it should be 12 and 10. Now it looks like for the second set here, I think these are both armor concepts. I didn't do one armor, one clothing. We'll just go 1 and 1B like we did before. So that's interesting. I wonder if it would make more sense to switch up the rules of the process and just go with whatever type of design I want for the second set, whether it's a casual clothing design concept or armor, rather than have it strictly be one of each. I could do that. Okay, I'm going to go for kind of more casual, regular clothing outfit for this one. Okay, I got an idea. We'll see how it pans out here. I gotta think, this one's not going to be symmetrical. I need to be careful I don't make my limbs too disproportionately skinny. Like, they don't need to be muscular unless I'm going for a muscular character design. But I think I talked on one of the previous streams about when I was going through my old drawing sketch archives and looking at things I did a long time ago as I was learning this particular style of drawing. One issue that I saw pretty consistently across all of the old sketches that I pulled was that the character limbs were, one, very, very kind of stick-like almost. And that was on both the males and the female characters. Just in general, the limbs were really kind of thin and stick-like, and they were disproportionately long. Like, I know for a fact, if we were to rearrange the proportions of this character, her hand would probably end further down here, almost. But the limbs themselves would be really long, so the legs would be like a 25% longer, and just very kind of unusual. And that's pretty common when you're first learning how to draw in a specific art style and getting kind of the concepts of anatomy and all that. But it was definitely noticeable. Okay, thinking about the design on the legs, I'm thinking it's kind of like a kind of high cut-off boot. Again, casual wear for this first one, not combat wear. Okay, I think I know how I'm gonna try and do this particular design, but I have to mirror it in order to draw the parts that aren't symmetrical. We'll do that first. And this is on the wrong layer, isn't it? Yep, reset the clock again. What's that, third time tonight? This would be 2, character 2. Okay, let's see if I can kind of fill in what I was trying to do with this. The idea here, and this is something that I've never really fleshed out a lot when I started designing these character types a while ago, just because I seem to always draw this particular race in armor for some reason. The style of clothing is kind of similar to like a more modern toga or like a tunic type garment. And the idea is that there's this kind of more loose-fitting part that's, let's see this section here to explain what I'm doing. This more loose-fitting section that's worn around another layer underneath and kind of secured up here on the shoulder. This would be a part kind of secured at the waist, kind of like a belt or like a midsection chain accessory. And then we'd have some kind of decorative characters and designs on the outer garment itself, since this is going to be more cloth. Okay, I think that'll be pretty functional. Just clean up some of the bits here. Alright. Let's hide the primary, make sure we're not missing anything. Kind of like we did on some of the other designs. It's more of like a cut-off fabric, or maybe more of a form-fitting under layer. And then the outer garment, we'll call like the pseudo toga, goes around it. So I can fix the edge here so it doesn't look quite so irregular. I think I actually made it worse. A little better. The cut of the fabric has got a weird shape. Okay, we did, let me compare it to the other one. I took a similar idea for this design. I wanted to build on a little bit. Are you down here? Yeah. This one, I think it is implemented a little bit better, but a similar idea, except instead of the more form-fitting cutoff at the shoulders garment, this is more of like a shirt. And this outer part that goes around is kind of like a, I don't know what you call that. It's not a sash, but it's meant to be sort of like this part that drapes over the shoulder. And I like to think that there are these long edges of the outer kind of toga-ish, tunic-ish garment that wraps around, and then these are kind of bound together with like a jeweled pin or something. So if this were to just fall off, it would be a couple long edges that would fall down, and then the rest of the garment. Similar concept. I think I like this one a little bit better. But what we can do is we can move this one into place. Or let's move it over. We can compare. And now we want to do the male counterpart. On the right layer this time, this is 2B. Okay, this one I do think I want to go armor to contrast. But one thing I want to do differently on this one that we haven't done on any of the concepts so far is headgear. Thinking like combat attire. I think on one of the other sessions we talked about what it would look like if we're doing kind of like an enforcer or military type outfit. And obviously if these characters are fully armored to protect their bodies and all the vital bits there, they would need something else that's going to protect their heads. Otherwise they would be leaving themselves wide open to being attacked in the head. So to that end, I'm going to experiment with helmet design this time, which is not something I think I've done at all. So I really should practice that more. Could double as like a biking helmet too, but I'm gonna go for the idea of it being a soldier's helmet. So going over the face down in this section right here would be a protective visor, something that might be like a internal display in addition to just being eyewear protection for the user. And I do like the idea of fully covered helmets, but for this one, this will just go over the kind of front top part of the face, so for you to look at it. From the side like this. This would be the visor, and the rest of the face down here, kind of Judge Dreddish, now that I think about it. I also like the concept of the visor itself maybe retracts up or maybe splits at the middle and retracts into the sides of the helmet so that when not in active combat to make visibility easier, it can be pulled out of the way of the eyes. Up probably makes more sense, but the kind of futuristic glass tech that you see in some science fiction where the visor comes out like this from this area of the helmet and just sort of meets at the middle or joins at the middle. I think that'd be a cool concept. since we did kind of like a military or enforcer style helmet, maybe we could think of this kind of like riot gear or protection that maybe armed troops or armed forces would have. And we're going for kind of maximum coverage. Meant to be kind of, this would be heavy armor compared to some of the other designs we've done. Like an active combat or war zone. And as far as this particular race's designs go, they tend, for armor, tend to be more symmetrical. I think the way I described it when we were talking about this in the previous sessions is it's like techno armor. So the concept of kind of more of a Western plate, full plate armor you'd see out of something like maybe medieval, but combined with technology. Okay. And likewise for the lower legs, you'd have kind of like shin guards. And just like we've done with some of the other ones, like heavy material, combat boots type garment. Our first bot of the night. Bye-bye. No bots allowed. Alright. I like the way that this design sort of came together for this type of armor. Soldier armor, we'll call it. Let's go ahead and save this, and we'll mirror that across. I'll merge those together. All right, let's compare that to the first one. Helmet is a different touch. It's definitely more of a unique kind of design element compared to all the other ones, since, again, first time we've tried messing around with the idea for a protective headgear piece. Looks a little bit Mega Man-ish. But I think that will work. And we can see the difference in the more combat-oriented armor design versus the casual wear. I need to come up with some more designs for the male casual wear. I think I could probably adapt this similar style of like a toga-ish tunic garment for like a male design. I don't know that this particular race would have exactly the same style between genders. I never really thought about that. Again, prior to working on this more in depth, I primarily only ever drew this race in armor all the time. Because if you look back at the original concept, we did armor here. And I don't think I have any concepts. Well, maybe they're in some of the older sessions we did. I'd have to look, but yeah, we'll to keep that in mind as something to think about so that we're fleshing out the ideas for both styles of outfit. Just try and just line these up as neatly as possible. Should be able to fit one more. Yeah, I don't think, unless we try and squeeze them all together and maybe fit one on the top, it's going to be 6 rows of 6 and 6, or 6, 6, 6 and 5 for the overall collection. Let me go take a look at one of the things in my archives. See if there's anything that I can also discuss while we're looking at character concepts that's not just straight up drawings, kind of flesh out the lore, but I gotta go see, since a lot of this stuff would have been done well before I ever started doing streaming. Oh, that's another format that we should go back to at some point. Something that'll allow us to sketch through a bunch of ideas quickly with a slightly more simplified format. Let me see when the last time we did that on stream here was, while I'm in the archives. I think it was down here, number 8. Wow, that's very, very rough sketch format. I think what I might do in the future session is take this idea, again, this was lifted from friend of the channel, Plups, and their concept drawing style of keeping things a little bit more simplified with these chibi proportions, or sketching out basic outfit designs and ideas, and then, if necessary, fleshing them out into regular proportioned, fully realized characters. But I think I want to take this format, and I'll go see if I can find a good base, or just I'll come up with another one from scratch. But since this is the same perspective, which I didn't realize since it's probably been quite some time since we worked on this one, this is head-on, like a symmetrical plane like the other one. But I think this was not done using any mirroring. I'm just looking at it. I think this was just sketched by hand, and it wasn't done with mirroring. And that's okay. But I think I want to take this type of style and create a different perspective. Maybe we go 3/4 facing the right. Let's see what else we did with this one. I could probably repurpose this layout and then just change the references a bit. Yeah, these are just head-on sketches. But if we take this chibi proportion model base, and again 3/4 like facing the right or left, then we can take the idea of drawing in a more simplified style. And then I noticed these have hair but no faces. We could do fully realized characters. There's no real reason we shouldn't. I think the main point of doing all of these was to focus on the outfits, just like we're doing for our main canvas. But we could do something like sketching out all the details of the facial features and the hair too. And it would just be a more complete character, realized character, instead of just essentially a dummy with the outfits. So that's an idea of something we can do. Maybe now that we've finished one set officially, that can be something to look at for the future. But I definitely want to work with this format more because it's a little bit easier to take symmetrical designs or even asymmetrical designs like this one and completely sketch out their details. But I know if we did it in chibi form, I'd be able to do them faster. So we can get more ideas out and throw more at the wall to see what sticks, which there's no real rush. But these brainstorming concept sessions are designed to come up with ideas that I can use for future, for characters or things in the stories. Let me go back in the archives and see what else we did. Something else that I was looking at, in fact, before we even got on stream today, we went live, is the concept of homeworlder lore, which I thought about doing, but I didn't have enough of an idea of what I wanted, so that's why we're working on this. But I do want to go back to the concept of sketching out the creatures or the life forms that come from Homeworld, which is VTuber accurate lore. And so I will figure out a way to get some information together so we can do that in the future too. Where are my canvases? We haven't done a creature study in a while too. Thought about doing that today, then I wanted to start working on a new set of regular character outfits. The idea would be to not get stuck doing just one thing on these drawing streams. We did pixel art last time, which was a good change of pace. Here's a good example to kind of go back to what I was talking about on stream earlier. Sort of. This was an exercise we did a while ago. I want to say this was probably almost 2 years ago at least. But this was where I scanned in something from my sketch archives that I was talking about earlier and started, let's see, I don't think we got past just like a general discussion on the character and like a bust render essentially of the outfit. But the idea was to take an old design from a long time ago and update it, redraw it, tweak things with the overall design, and kind of redo the character. And so I only brought this up because this was something I was talking about on stream earlier. I wanted to illustrate it a bit better. I don't know when this one was drawn originally. I don't date my sketches, and I really wish I had, but I never thought I was going to be doing content creation and showing old drawings, so that's probably why I didn't do that. But this one, I have to say, was over well, let's see. We're in 2025. This has to be in the 2000s. So maybe a little less than 20 years ago now. Jesus. Because I've been working at trying to learn like a manga and anime type style for a bit. But it's not the only type of drawing I do, so I tend to progress pretty slowly. But this has to be in the late 2000s, I want to say. A little bit less than 20 years, which is terrifying. But this is a good opportunity to illustrate what I was talking about with some of the things that I saw in these old sketches. And some of the more recent ones that I have in my archives don't have this as rampantly of a problem. But a couple things to note here. This is what I was talking about with the limbs. The limbs are very, very skinny, very stick-like. And this one actually has a problem that sort of comes up every once in a while as well, in addition to just the limbs being very stick-like. But the arm doesn't go down that far. In fact, the arm is too short. I think the arm needs to end more down here, but the legs are disproportionately long. Like if we were to go and measure the length of the legs to where they kind of join with the body, the pelvis right about here, and then we measure the body itself, that's like a 3-to-1 ratio of the legs. The legs are very long. If we take the reference, where is it? Here. and we were to just squash it a little bit. Let's see how I do that in Clip Studio. This doesn't instantly fix the problem, but compared to the way it looks normally, if we were just to kind of flatten it a little, then the proportions get a little bit better, but the arm is still too short. But we'll leave it unaltered for the sake of embarrassing historical accuracy. But this is something that you saw on a lot of these old ones that came from the archives. Kind of skinny arms, really long legs, or a mixture of both, and the faces are a little bit kind of squashed together. Like another thing I could see just looking at this, even the more up-to-date sketch has some things that I don't think I would do nowadays if I was doing this drawing, but the hairline is way too low. If we zoom in, this lady's hairline is, I'd say, maybe 10-15% lower than where it should be. If the hairline was accurate, it would need to go kind of up here like this, assuming the hair is being pulled back in this direction, which is what we were going for with the tied ponytail. This makes more sense if it was bangs, at which point they should be longer. That wasn't the intention here. I could tell just by the way it's drawn. But if these were going to be actual bangs, then they would need to be kind of down here. And I don't know if that would make a ton of sense, since it'd mean part of the front of the hair was cut short, and then you have the other part here was left long. I can't see why someone would do that intentionally. But the exercise of remixing old drawings and trying to make them a little bit more modern is something that I would like to do more of. So, like we've talked about on stream before, pulling more things from the archive is something I want to do. The reason why I haven't recently, and I was tinkering around with this before the stream, my scanner doesn't work anymore. I have a USB, like all-in-one printer scanner that I use very rarely to print things, but for scanning docs or for scanning drawings. And for some reason, the scanner just decided it was going to no longer scan, which is annoying because for stuff like this, being able to scan in my old work, which is pencil, is pretty handy. But I might be getting a second-hand scanner from my folks who are going to be replacing their old all-in-one printer scanner in their home computer. And rather than throw it away, I can just use it as a USB scanner. So I might get one soon. I actually, before the stream started, was messing around with just using my phone to take pictures, and I need to figure out a better way to light my desk and get it so that I could take a picture. It didn't work super well. I just put a paper sketch of something that I drew a while back and tried to get my desk lamp to light it in a way where I could take a picture of it and then just, paste it into Discord or something and then download it. But because I use a very lightweight mechanical pencil, this is a 0.5 lead with a pretty high hardness, low hardness, but it's very light sketches. They're not heavy lines. This one right here you see, I had to darken the contrast of the scan after I pulled it off of the scanner just so that it would be visible and I could use to use it as a reference. So that is going to be a problem, but I'll figure that out. but we'll see when we can revisit a project like this, since, again, it's good to go through some of these old designs. It's a little, well, it's very embarrassing to see, but at least we can show a bit of progress. Well, we are getting close to time. I think I will wrap up now instead of get started on something and not finish. So we'll go ahead and close these. Going back to the initial canvas, we got 1, 2, 4 designs fully sketched out today. I don't think that's the record. I think the record is like 6 or so. But we did get some done, which is good. We're into the set 2, and we'll see how long it takes. It took a few sessions to get all the way through all 22 drawings, but if I have free time, then I'll probably work on it offline as well and keep adding to it. But we're making progress in coming up with designs and kind of fleshing out core concepts of the outfits for the universe, which is the whole reason why I started doing this on stream, is to force myself to try and chip away at establishing more lore for this project that I've been working on for a very, very, very long time. If I was really ambitious, then I'd be forcing myself to write, but I don't think me trying to write on stream is good content. I think people would be incredibly bored watching me sit there and try and figure out how to structure narratives and write stuff like that. But what we can do, let me go and see, since we'll wrap up here and we'll save our final version of this one. We will return to faces in the future, but like I was saying, maybe we'll do chibi designs next time we do characters. But let me see who is online that we can raid. Okay, I see Dee Dee Raspberry is online. She is playing Dragon Quest Builders 2, which I've never seen before. I believe this other VTuber was the one who was playing SMT when we raided at one point, which is cool. We can go over there and see how things are going. So let me cue that up. Here. And then we'll go ahead and pause the music. And we'll go to outro. And we'll head over there and see how Dragon Quest Builders is going. So we'll call that a decently productive drawing stream today, as we got started working on more concept ideas. Assuming work doesn't screw my schedule up again, we should be back tomorrow for more SMT shenanigans in Raido Remastered. That's what I put on the schedule, right? Yes, same time, jumping back into detective work, and then I have a jam stream on the schedule for the weekend. Again, that's if things don't get moved around. I did want to mention, I'll probably talk about this at the end of the week too. Next week we're going to be adding a new game to the kind of extended long play here on the channel, since the main one now is Raido Remastered, and then we kind of swap in other games. We've been doing roguelites. We do Factorio every once in a while, but I want to switch in one that I want to spend some decent time streaming, because it's a game I really want to talk to all you folks about. So that should be on the docket for next week. But until then, thanks to everyone who stopped by and hung out. Hope everybody has a good rest of your day or evening, and I will catch you folks in the next one. Now let's go see how the Dragon Quest Builders is going.